So good morning. How lovely to see so many of you for our first workshop Wednesday, which basically is Diplomas to be Defunded. So just to give you a very sort of brief, basically Gary McPartland, our assistant principal, and heading up T-levels, will be presenting first, around about sort of 10 to 15 minutes, and then Paul Ward, our apprenticeship development manager, will follow on from that. In between which time, you're very welcome to type in any questions, and I'll try and pick them up, and obviously we'll do our very best to answer them. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So this session is being recorded. If this is of any concern to you, then please just basically switch off your camera, and that should do the trick. So I'm hoping this is going to go incredibly smoothly. Those that know me well know that I'm not the most techie of people. So I've got a really great team behind me who are here to press the right buttons and not the wrong ones. Okay, so I'm going to basically hand over to Gary now to talk about T-levels. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Can I just introduce myself? My name is Gary McPartland. I'm the assistant principal at the Inspire Education Group. Lovely to see you all. I'm just going to give you this morning for the next 10 minutes an overview, obviously, what T-levels are and our journey. We've been planning T-levels for a considerable time now at the IEG Group. It was since last September, but obviously T-levels have been running in the country across the UK in a lot of colleges since 2020. We put the first slide on, please, Adam. Oh, and the next one, thank you. So I'm going to go back to 2016, basically, when it first all started, when there was an independent review, basically, done by Lord Sainsbury. And he set out to advise ministers on improving technical education in England. And through his research and going into different colleges around the country, he came up with some recommendations, basically, for reforms of education within the country and across the FE sector. And what he recommended is that we changed level 3 programs throughout the country and to introduce T-levels. And T-levels are technical routes for students, and there are a big focus on employment-based and obviously training for students 16 to 18-year-olds. They first set out in 2020, and initially there were 15 technical routes. At present now, there's roughly about 22, and it's growing. I think by 2026, there'll be 26 technical routes that students can go on to. And obviously what he wanted to do was streamline the choice for students. You'll probably recognise that BTEC qualifications, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of BTEC qualifications and many other qualifications, and it was getting quite confusing for parents and students and for staff, really, and careers advisors like yourselves on choice for students. So they wanted to streamline it. So his recommendations were accepted in the skills plan in 2016, and hence our move now towards T-levels, which will be throughout the country at level 3 from 2026. Next slide, please, Adam. So what choice will young students have? So these are the choices that young students will have from 2026. Okay, so there'll be a T-level offer in colleges, there will be T-level transition offer, there will be A-levels and apprenticeships. So that's not to say that level 1 and level 2 programs are going away. They are still around, and they will continue to be around for the near future. However, they are going through some reforms at level 1 and level 2. Well, this is what the landscape will be from 2026. Next slide, please, Adam. So what a T-level is, what does it encompass? Basically, it's a career-led 2-year technical course, yeah, at IEG College Group. They are an 80-20 split, so it's quite the reverse of an apprenticeship. So it's 80% study in the college and 20% in the workplace. And they have been designed by and for employers and students. They're equivalent to 3 A-levels. and they do accrue UCAS points. So students' main goal is, once they've done a T-level, is either go on to university or to ascertain a job. Next slide, please, Adam. So what do T-levels, what do they include? What does a T-level encompass? Basically, for each T-level, there is a core theory, concepts and skills. Yeah, there is a specialist skills element to the T-level. There are industry placement, which is very specific. It's 315 hours or 45 days of inner work placement. It's not work experience. It's very much different from work experience. It's an industry placement. And then obviously the overall grade for T-levels are distinction star to pass. And there are separate grades for the core component, which is A star to E, and separate grades for the occupational specialisms. So just to put that into context, in construction, there will be a T-level delivered from IEG Group from 2024 on on-site construction. And within the on-site construction, there will be the specialist skills, and those will be in the subjects of plumbing, bricklaying, carpentry, plastering, and paint and decorating. So those are the specialist components. So those will be delivered individually. Some colleges are delivering the core together in group sizes, where there's a mixture of students on the on-site construction. So in the core, basically, that might be talking about risk assessments and health and safety, because obviously health and safety is a big factor within construction. So that's what will be in the core. Next slide, please, Adam. So this is the timeline for reforms. So these are the changes, what's going to happen and how they're going to happen. So it first started in 2020. That's when T-levels first came out in the country, and this was wave one. And in wave one, there was digital design and surveying and education and childcare. And then the following year, 2021, 22, there were other waves to follow. So within that, there was building service engineering, on-site construction, digital businesses, digital support, health and care, and so on. Now, as you can see, from 2024, this is when the defunding will start on any overlap of level 3 qualifications, which are mainly BTECs or City and Guilds qualifications. So in next year, from next academic year, so 2024-25, wave one pathways, the funding will disappear from those qualifications. Then in 2025-26, wave two pathways will disappear from funding. And then from 2026-27, then obviously that's the final wave, is when those other pathways will disappear, wave four. However, the goalposts, and I must stress this, the goalposts are moving, and they have been moving for a period of time regarding T-levels and what encompasses a T-level and times of T-levels. So recently, where you can see the animal care, the catering, craft design, hair and beauty and media, those have been deferred for another year. So those have been put back to 2024-25. However, I must stress this, from 2026-27, none of these, if there's any overlap on a level 3 qualification, they will be defunded. So the City and Guilds qualifications, BTEC qualifications, if there's any overlap, then obviously there will be no funding. This is obviously then forcing colleges to obviously take on board the T-levels. Next slide, please, Adam. So what's our offer from 2023-24? So this is our offer. We've got 6 pathways or sectors. You can see that some Peterborough College is doing the construction, surveying and design. The digital pathway is at Stamford College. We've got the early years educator at Peterborough and Stamford, supporting and healthcare at the adult nursing at Peterborough College, and then it will be at Stamford College from 2024. Then we've got science and engineering, which we've done at Peterborough College. So this is our first the first remit of T-levels from 2023-2024, and we're now in the process of ordering and acquiring specialist equipment. We've got significant monies by central government, and there's a whole range of specialist equipment coming on board now into the college, ready for September. We've also done a lot of work around educating staff regarding CPD for the last academic year, and staff are now fully au fait with modes of delivery, schemes of work, which are all set in place ready for 2023. Next slide, please, Adam. From 2024, this will be our offer. So hence another 8 different sectors, or 8 sectors coming into play. And these will come into play from 2024, 2025. So you can see there's a good broad spread, a good arrangement of different sectors that are coming on board. Some new ones for the college will be accountancy, accounting, we're delivering that one from 2024. And then obviously in larger areas, we've got construction, electrical, plumbing, carpentry and joinery. Some new ones are the health and supporting mental health care team. And we're also looking at midwifery as well. So there will be a whole range of T levels across the board in many, many sectors at level 3. Next slide, please, Adam. So to support students onto T levels, we've got an arrangement of transition programs. These are for students who have either a math or an English and want to go onto a T level, specifically designed for supporting students. These programs are. They are a hybrid of a level 2 program. They're based on 580 hours. And part of the transition program is for the learners to focus on either a math or an English, their digital skills, enrichment, and working with employers. So I must stress that the fundamental program of a transition program are for learners who want to go on to a T level. Yeah, learners, we've been working on different route maps currently at the college. So we've got route maps for every single sector, which allows students to jump off at any given time, whether it's onto a transition program at T level or into an apprenticeship. Okay, thank you very much. Can't hear Rosie.
If anyone's got any, sorry, if anyone's got any questions now and you want to type in any, then do, or you can leave it until after Paul's presentation, entirely up to you. I'll keep an eye on them anyway. I don't think there's any coming in yet. All right. Okay. So Paul, do you want to take over?
I can.
Thank you.
Paul, you're on mute.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, everyone. And again, thank you for joining us on this morning's webinar. Just by way of background, I've been managing apprenticeships as an area of provision for 14 years. And during that period of time, I've seen significant changes in terms of how apprenticeships are funded and how the content and delivery has changed. So what I want to do over the next 10 minutes or so is to give you an update and a bit of a reality check, really, of where we are currently with apprenticeships in England, and some suggestions of how you can assist any of your students who are interested in becoming an apprentice. So we're going to start off with looking at the challenges. Okay, so basically, the key thing, obviously, always to remember that there tends to be a lot of confusion around apprenticeships anyway and how they work, and people are kind of locked into thinking about, does it work along the lines of a full-time course at college or perhaps sixth form? Obviously, with apprenticeships, it's all about employment. So that's the key thing. So for any young person, the key message is you've obviously got to secure employment in the first instance. And of course, around that, there are obviously no guarantees. Now, anyone of any age can also apply for an apprenticeship. And again, a bit of a myth buster. People tend to think apprenticeships are for 16 to 18 age group, and that certainly isn't the case. Now, just to give you an idea of the challenge around that, out of all of the apprenticeship starts for this academic year so far, and that's approximately 200,000, only 28% of those are under the age of 19. So a whopping 72% of all apprenticeship jobs are being swallowed up by the 19 and over age group. And the entry requirements can be a bit of a challenge for some as well. So now with the they've been around for a few years now, but the new apprenticeship standards for the level 3 apprenticeships, you'll tend to find that colleges and training providers are looking for a minimum GCSE grade 4 in English and maths or equivalent. I'm saying that can be a bit of a challenge for some applicants. We also find that we have some challenges around parental perceptions, and we will see this at our open evenings, and typically you'll get parents coming with their year 11, year 12, year 13 sort of child, and wanting to look at apprenticeships. And again, we tend to find that there's a lot of misconceptions around apprenticeships when you start talking to parents. They often see apprenticeships as a bit of a weak option, maybe compared to A-levels, and certainly compared to university. So there's certainly a lack of knowledge, understanding, and also around what are the progression routes of apprenticeships and how does that work. Then when apprentices are on programme, we can see some challenges around that in terms of the some apprentices can start to struggle. And I've got a few examples, and obviously from experience with this, for looking at someone, for example, who may have started a brickwork apprenticeship, they probably tend to find that that's great in the summer when we have the better weather. Once winter kicks in, reality becomes too much for many. And also on the other end of the scale, we also find that the apprenticeships like electrical and engineering, where there's more in terms of the academic and theory side, that some actually find that quite difficult, and they struggle when they start going into classes. You start with scientific principles and so on, and again, some of those can then fall by the wayside. We have other instances where we have apprentices who will fall out with their employer, or just decide that this isn't the career for them. And when you look at the current achievement rates, and some of you may be familiar with this, it's actually quite shocking. So I think for last academic year, when it was published, I think the national achievement rate for apprenticeships is somewhere around 56 to 57%. So it's really low, certainly in comparison to other programmes. Obviously, the government are focused on that, and they're setting a benchmark of 67% to be achieved over the next 2 or 3 years. So it's certainly very, very challenging with that respect. So currently then, over 40% of apprentices don't achieve their apprenticeship. So what happens then is they will return to full-time education, or they will simply start working in another sector, or they will stay in the same sector, but will take on jobs that basically are not linked to their apprenticeship. And then finally, with the apprenticeship standards, they now all have a very robust and rigorous endpoint assessment. So again, what we're seeing is that quite a few apprentices who've possibly not been fully committed to learning and training do fail their endpoint assessment. And a small number of those, although they can take resits, a small number of those are unable to pass resits. Okay, so with the apprenticeship journey, so this is really the key section with the advice that we need to give to any young person that's interested in becoming an apprentice. So, and again, I'm sure that many of you will be familiar with the Finding an Apprenticeship service. That's located on gov.uk, but simply direct a young person to type in Find an Apprenticeship into Google, and that will direct them immediately to that website. So basically, I always refer to it as a three-pronged approach that a young person needs to take. So first thing is go to that Find an Apprenticeship website. They need to register on that website. And once they've done that, they can then search and apply for apprenticeship vacancies. There is some really useful functions on there. They can search by sector area. They can put in their home postcode. And then obviously when they hit the enter button, that will return all the vacancies that are within a certain radius of where they live. And of course, that young person, again, when I speak to them, speak to parents, I'm always talking about, how are you actually going to get to work? Are you going to be relying on public transport? Are you going to be relying on lifts from other people? So it's just getting them thinking about those sorts of things. So that's the key place they want to go to. The second thing they need to do is also to look on other recruitment sites, and certainly register at least on one of the recruitment sites. Of course, there are many. So, it could be Indeed, it could be Total Jobs. There is one that I would always also recommend to young people, and that is one that's called, and again, you may have heard of it, is Not Going to Uni. So the Not Going to Uni website has additional apprenticeship vacancies on there that are actually aimed at the higher levels. So we're talking level 4 up to degree level. So you may have young people that are looking at going to university, And it's absolutely worth looking on the Not Going to Uni website just to see if there's opportunities for them to gain employment and complete that same degree. And obviously, if they're employed and they're doing it through the apprenticeship route, they won't incur any fees, as opposed to obviously the expensive route of going to university. And then finally, the third strand, if you like, for a young person when they're looking for an apprenticeship is actually, and I mentioned about, you know, when they're looking and they're looking on Find an Apprenticeship, they put their home postcode in there and see what vacancies they've got. But equally do the same, but have a look at, do a search in terms of what businesses are local to where they live. You know, if they know what apprenticeship they would like to do, then certainly it's absolutely well worth them actually putting together a CV and cover letter and sending that to companies that are within a sort of a radius, a reasonable radius in terms of getting to work of where they live. And I've had, again, over the years, I've had you know, young people do this, and they've come to me in the office and said, I've secured an apprenticeship, you know, I contacted a company, been in to see them, and they've offered me an apprenticeship. So it can and does work if, you know, the young person is proactive. So how can schools support their students? So really just sort of bringing in some of those things I've just been talking about, you know, make sure that that young person understands the process and the challenges, and that there is no guarantees. Make sure they understand the level of commitment. You know, many apprenticeships, if they're looking at doing electrical or plumbing or engineering, they're looking at 4-year apprenticeships. You know, if you're talking someone at 16, 17, 18, 4 years is a huge period of time in their life. So make sure they're clear on the level of commitment that's involved. It's not like coming to, you know, college or sixth form, perhaps doing a year and then doing a second year. So it can be a big commitment around that. Make sure they understand the academic or physical demands of the job or sector they want to work in. And as I've mentioned, you know, only applying for apprenticeships is not necessarily enough because it's not guaranteed. So they do need a backup plan, be that going to sixth form or looking obviously at a college, T-levels, as Gary's been discussing. But they certainly need some sort of backup plan in place in case that apprenticeship doesn't come off for them. Help students with CVs and covering letters. And again, as I mentioned, and apply to local companies. And of course, what you can do, you can obviously seek guidance from training providers, colleges, come to ourselves, and really just to ensure that the desired apprenticeship that they want can be delivered locally, or a national training provider may be required. Now, and again, from experience, what I tend to see is I do get quite a few, you know, students or young people on open evenings who will ask me about apprenticeships that are actually quite niche. And what you tend to find is that colleges and providers will obviously deliver for local needs. So if it's quite niche, it may be something that we don't do. So again, it's just that there is a facility now on gov.uk where you can find a training provider. It's a really good function. So if you think it's something that a local college can't do, so there is a function where the young person could look that up and it will tell them what training providers can deliver. And then just talking around the competition, well, clearly, you know, as we all know, it's a highly competitive job market. And again, what I see, there's a huge variation in terms of applications that I will see that come on the Find an Apprenticeship service. Some of them are excellent. Some are obviously can be quite poor. So again, it's, you know, making sure again that applications are good if you're supporting that young person. And, you know, remember that they're competing with applicants who may hold A-levels or already have done work experience. And in some instances, I'll even see applications from people that have done degrees. So they finish university, unable to secure employment in the sector that they've wanted to go into, and they're actually using the apprenticeship now as a way of securing employment. The other thing obviously to remember as well is obviously there's no age restriction. So if we have year 11 applicants applying for apprenticeships, they may be applying for apprenticeships where the applicants may be in their 20s or might be older. So as I say, just to highlight that there's a lot of competition when they apply. It's not on the slide, but I just wanted to sort of bring in really around the rewards of being an apprentice, because I sort of thought I've been through that. Some of it sounds a bit doom and gloom, but actually apprenticeships are fantastic, and and when you see the rewards, when somebody achieves and you see that progression they're making, it is absolutely brilliant. So really, as an apprentice, they gain such a wealth of industry and sector experience, and of course very often leads to continued employment and progression opportunities. And those progression opportunities, they could be promotion, it could be going self-employed, it could be business startup. There's a whole range of options, but typically, you're looking at 90% of most employers will want to retain their apprentices. And of course, it's a fast track. So if you've got a young person, they know what job they want, they know what career they want to go into. Apprenticeship is a great fast track way of doing that. And of course, they're getting paid whilst learning. So it puts them in a position, actually, when you look at the basics of it, maybe to purchase a car or a home quicker than perhaps those that are going to university. And of course, they're not getting the debt either of people that are going to university as well. So I had a look at this. So in terms of improved earnings potential, there's been quite a lot of studies and research around this. And Barclays Bank and Centre for Economics and Business Research in 2017, which showed that apprentices earn over 117,000 more over a lifetime than those with A-levels. I thought that was quite interesting. And graduates only earn slightly more, about 1.8% over a working lifetime. But that gap was diminishing due to the increasing university fees. Okay, and that's it from me. Thank you. So any questions?
Thanks so much, Paul. That is absolutely great. Yeah, we have got quite a few questions here, actually. So Rachel's asked, how long is the T-level transition course and what qualifications do they need to get into the transition course? It's one for you, Gary.
The transition course is 1 year at the college. They would need, depending on the sector, either a math or an English. So they'll need one the GCSE in maths or English, generally at grade 4.
Okay, thank you. And Kate,
Rosie, can I just explain? Obviously, we've got transition programs now from September in most every subject area, because we have to prepare students for the following academic year who want to progress onto a T-level. So we've got a range of transition programs now for students to go on to if they've got a math or an English in a lot of areas. Obviously, you'll appreciate sport and public services. They are not within T-levels. Yeah, motor vehicle isn't within T-levels. Marketing is coming on board in 2026. 25-26 is marketing T-level. Also, can I just explain to everyone about, obviously Paul was talking about apprenticeships. When a student in construction or engineering completes a T-level, a 2-year T-level program here at the college or throughout the country, they are not a qualified tradesperson within that subject area. You will appreciate they've only done 45 days or 315 hours of a industry placement. So they haven't really done any competency within the workplace. All right, they may have done a bit. So the government have recognised this, and they're trialling now a process for when a student finishes a construction T-level, they then do a top up and a fast track scheme to an endpoint assessment. So it's coming full circle. So if I was a typical learner and I had a job to go to, then I would push a student to be an apprentice rather than a T-level, because within 3 or 4 years, depending on the standard, obviously the standard of apprenticeship, some of them are 2 years, some of them are 4 years for the bigger ones, the plumbing one and the electrical installation one, then obviously an apprenticeship is a far better option in my eyes personally than a T-level, because they're gaining the competence and they're obviously earning while they're learning as well. That's not to undermine the T-level.
Gary, can I ask a quick question? So if they did a 2-year T-level in construction and then had to do a top up, how long would that top up be in addition to the T-level?
Yeah, they're saying at the moment about a year.
Okay,
but it depends on, but they may have a couple of attempts at the endpoint assessment. They may not pass the endpoint assessment. You'll appreciate that electrical installation apprenticeship is 4 years, plumbing is 4 years, quite a long apprenticeship. There's been arguments about how long apprenticeship should be. 4 years is an awfully long time for a learner to go on a course. Some people change their mind. It's a really long time, 4 years. hence some of the dropout rates throughout the country, and obviously the impact of COVID's not helped, etc. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Guy. That was brilliant. Okay, so Kate's also asked what happens to the lower achieving students, and will there be a level 1 provision?
Yeah, so level 1 and level 2 provision will not go away. It'll always be there for the learners, and there's going to be thousands of students who won't get their English and Maths, unfortunately. However, we have got a English and Maths program that if a learner does a transition program and doesn't get their Math or English, right, and they can't get a job or move into an apprenticeship, then we're offering a Maths and English course specifically for them to grade up or get the level 4 or level 5 Maths or English. Yeah, because we appreciate that there are students on a transition program who are working towards a T level won't get the Math or in English. So hopefully then this English and Maths course will support them moving forward and progressing.
Okay, thank you. Cal's asked for T levels, will the defunding of diplomas only apply to age 18 and 19-year-olds, and will this apply to adult learners as well?
Yeah, so in my understanding is they're just not being funded. They'll still be there. Whether the awarding body decides to remove them because there's not a lot of people on them, that's another question, another story. But obviously there is they won't be funded within the college, the 16 to 19. Also, T levels are not funded for adults at the moment, 19 plus. There was a pilot scheme, didn't really take off successfully. So at the moment, there's no funding for T levels. Can I also just say about T levels is the interview process is a one-to-one interview process at the college. We have a pre-interview activity questionnaire that the learner completes prior to them coming to the interview. And that will give the member of staff some prior knowledge of their aspirations and obviously what they've been doing with themselves at school, and also what they've been doing outside of school. So whether they've been working part-time job, etc.
Okay, I've got one sent to me actually recently, and it's somebody who couldn't join us today. And basically they are very concerned that T levels are too academic, and that will mean that, you know, they would have to look at getting an apprenticeship, which is great, and we all know that apprenticeships are great, but they're concerned that the competition is so steep that as a career advisor in the school, they haven't got time or the means to help support them with a CV, with a covering letter, with their job searching, etc., because it's, you know, it's a big package. And is there anything the college can help with?
I mean, we have people within the college, Rosie. We have people within the college to support students at every level, IEG team, support staff, student mentors, our lecturing staff will signpost students, open evenings. Also, there's many array of people, industry specialists in their own field and careers advisors who obviously can talk to students. So I would say there's lots on offer at IEG, Peterborough and Stamford. It's just a case of coming in and talking to us at those events.
Okay, that's fine. Did you want to add anything to that, Paul?
Yeah, that'd be great, Rosie. Thank you. I was going to say, obviously, I've got a team, obviously, of apprenticeship officers. So we would also be available just to give that additional support. And I think the key thing is that three-pronged approach that I was talking about. So we're more than happy to obviously support anyone currently at school, sort of year 10, 11, 12, 13, just with that process, so they're absolutely clear on what that process is. And, you know, where possible as well, you know, in some instances, we may be able to also help with perhaps signposting to some employers.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the job searching which the careers advisors find really daunting, and of course it is a huge role, and some of them, you know, have over 200 students to look at, you know, where they're going to. So they'll be pleased to know that, you know, we can offer as much support as we possibly can. Okay.
Rosie, can I just mention, obviously, two-year course program, T-level program, 2 years. Students obviously need to be very, very committed to that sector that they want to go into. I know some students change their mind. They're looking at obviously when a student starts the program, if after a year they're trying to arrange some form of certificate. However, the main goal of that T-level is obviously to give them some industry knowledge, and obviously them to gain this the arrangement of certificates. So obviously it's a bit of a commitment for the student. Obviously it's 2 years, so they need to be sure that that's the industry that they want to go into. And obviously progression pathways onto higher education or apprenticeships is obviously available as well after that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Has anybody got any more questions? Have I covered everything? Yeah. Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry, there is. What about funding for adult courses? Will this be affected, and will it affect courses that are not covered by T-levels? We have some young students who want to do counselling courses, and that's from Cal.
So I'm not aware of obviously any reforms to level 1 and level 2. They are coming down the track, but obviously those courses will still be available at level 1 and level 2. Reforms are coming on the way, though. There will be some tweaks and changes over the next couple of years. Consultation papers have gone out to educationalists, and they're giving feedback on what they want. And counselling courses, I think they'll still be there. They'll be on offer for students to go on to them. Funding, as far as I'm concerned, is not being taken away for those courses. However, if it crosses over onto a T-level and it's at level 3, then they may most likely go.
Okay. And Kate Cole's asked, will the college arrange the work placement for the T-level students? And what if work placements can't be found? Is there any incentive for employers to offer placements for T-level students?
So there used to be £1,000 incentive from July. Well, it finished in July last year. There's a pot of money that we get as an organisation, IEG Group. It's not a very large pot of money. That's to support with transport and obviously any workwear or anything like that. It's not an incentive or monies towards the employer. There's a small amount of money, but it's not a great deal. We appreciate. We've been having continued talks with, and we have set up advisory boards. So within each sector now, we have employer advisory boards. The good majority have been well attended. So we're working with employers. It's up to the college to find them a workplace. However, there's a collaboration with the parent and the student as well. So in the guidance, obviously, it's down to the college to find that placement. There's been some changes in January regarding the industry placements and and their hours. So we can now work with more than one employer. It can be within 2 settings. So we can work with 2 employers. And there are some other changes regarding the monies. And I'm just trying to think, there was another change. There's a couple of changes. I can send the guidance out, Rosie. Yeah,
okay,
and a brief
that would be
overview.
good.
And then obviously you can see some of the changes. But obviously some of the hours can be done within the college, within the setting of the college for the work placement. So industry guest speaker talks account to some of the hours as well towards the industry placement. So they're just trying to roll back some of the guidance that was initially set out in 2020, because some colleges, through reporting back to the DFE, have found it difficult to do the 315 hours. So there's been some tweaks in January.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay for you, Kate? Okay, so I've got quite a few questions actually from Sam Grant, and that's Spalding Academy. The main area of concern for us is T-levels being in rural Lincolnshire, is how students are expected to secure placements given the lack of transport. So I'll come back to the other questions, because I do think as always that I think that's a real issue.
It is. So we've been talking to employers now on our advisory boards. We've got another meeting with them late June. And at that point, then we will be discussing postcodes of students and addresses. So we're trying to match them up to the nearest place and obviously support them with the funding that we've got to support students. So whether it's local transport or whether it's other means of transport to get them to obviously where they need to work to. But it is difficult. We know there's a challenge ahead. The volumes of T-levels as well at IEG Group, From September, we'll most likely have about 75 students. That's roughly our target. The following year, when defunding starts to take place on that wave 1, the numbers will dramatically upscale. So 300-400 students. So the 75, yeah, not a problem. But really upscaling, we know we've got some work around, obviously trying to find those placements. Yeah, it's a hard ask, especially in rural Lincolnshire. So we appreciate, obviously, there's a problem, but we're up for the challenge, and we should meet everybody's requirements and needs.
Okay, and she also says, secondly, many employers are limited to how many young people they can accommodate and would rather take an apprentice, which is also a concern. Many of these are companies we have contacted with students for apprenticeships and are inclined to consider students at post 17/18 due to insurance, amongst other things. And we fear this will be the same for work placements.
So when we've been speaking to employers on our advisory boards meeting, we've been emphasising, obviously, the T-level is their recruitment talent process, basically, for pipeline for their new business or businesses. We've asked employers to treat it, or they could treat it as a 315-hour interview for the learner that they potentially may take on. There's no obligation for them to take a student on, either onto apprenticeship scheme or employment. And the employers that we've already spoken to are very keen on supporting their own businesses via these T-level students who are applying now. Yeah, and a good majority are thinking of taking more than one student on, so they'll take them on a rotation basis within their organisation. There's some factors they brought into play. The last advisory board meeting that we had with digital, they said on a Friday their offices are quite empty. So working patterns have changed now since COVID. So obviously we appreciate that. So some students may go into a setting perhaps midweek rather than beginning at the end of the week. So we're just trying to work with employers as we move forward. And these advisory boards meetings that we've got now in every sector are obviously a good talking point, and to have these initial discussions with employers to get our feet under the table with them.
Okay, thank you. Paul, this is one for you. It's an invitation. So if we were to host, and this is from Sam again, if we were to host a session for parents, carers to educate them on apprenticeships, including local employers, would you be able to attend?
Yes, obviously, yeah. Give me as much notice as possible.
Yeah.
As I said, there's a team of apprenticeship officers that I manage. So if it's not me, then certainly one of the team would attend and support an event such as that. Yes, no problem.
Okay, hi, that's great.
Sorry to interrupt. And that obviously is the same with the T levels. If we were to look to educate parents there too, would that be something you'd be happy to accommodate too, Gary?
Not a problem at all. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
I think that's the stumbling block at the minute. I don't think a lot of parents know what's coming down the track, and I think we've got open evenings and stands, and I've had a stand out within Stanford and Peterborough College since last September, and I wouldn't say that I've had many people coming to the stand to talk about T levels. When qualifications are starting to be defunded, that's when people will prick their ears up and go, "Oh my God, what's happening?" But at the minute, there's a dual offer Samantha, isn't there?
There is. I think we have the same issue with the BTECs, that parents and carers don't appreciate that they are as credible to a degree as A levels, and we've had that massive hurdle that we've had to overcome, certainly in the last 2-3 years, where our students are wanting to do more BTECs, whether that be subjects or courses. And obviously here we go again, we've got to now another hurdle that we've got to overcome, which is fine, but it's what support we can get to kind of educate parents and carers as much as the students, really.
Yeah, the worrying thing I would say is the changes that they keep making within, and I'm being dead honest, the changes that they keep making with T levels and the rollback and the changes sometimes can undermine things. So there are things coming down the track where there are discussions on whether they will defund all the BTEC qualifications. This was the other week on FE News, and you just think, what's coming down the track? But I'm hoping they stick with them. I think they're very valuable, the T level. Working with employers is critical. So when a student leaves the college, they have an understanding of some working life, yeah, because there are a lot of students who go into the workplace and really they haven't had a part-time job before and they're very, very green. So it's just trying to get that understanding of working with employers.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I think we've just got a huge turnaround to do, and I know I work really closely with a number of employers, and even doing, like you said, sending out CVs for apprenticeships, and we've sent several out this year for our numbers of hundreds of companies we've sent out this year, and we just don't get anything back because of their age at 16. They just don't want to recruit at 16. So hopefully with the T level, obviously you've got that extra year over the belt, which hopefully will help them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got, Samantha, we've had very good discussions with the NHS, Lincolnshire and Peterborough. So they're very supportive. So I don't think our early years won't be a problem. We've got some really good contacts with early years. I would say early years is the easiest one to transfer over to. From the qualification they're doing now to the T level, it's a very smooth transition because they're already doing a lot of the things already. It's just a different sort of wrapping paper within the qualification.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay. And another one from Rachel. So what if they don't achieve their maths or English grade? What provision will there be for these students?
So that's the worrying thing, and that's what a lot of people are worried about. So they do a level 1 course, they do a level 2 course, they're not improving their maths and English. Then the opportunity is for the 3rd year at college to do maths and English alone, to still upgrade, because we know there's going to be some students who will get to that point after 2 years they haven't got the maths and English. So the maths and English course that we're promoting from September, and obviously pushing apprenticeships. So there'll be opportunities for them either go into apprenticeship. So there'll be some work around Paul and his team, and obviously going into groups, talking about obviously their next steps. But we need to do that early on. Yeah, so students and parents are fully aware of their goals in getting their maths and English, and I think it's a government priority as well. What they want to do for maths and English.
Just to add to that, and obviously we do have this every year. So, you know, if they've not got the grade 4 in English and maths, and we obviously get students coming into the office every year with this, then you know we could look at supporting them with a level 2 apprenticeship. But as I say, with a level 3 now, with a standard and the academic level within those apprenticeships at level 3, if they haven't got a minimum GCSE grade 4, they will find it extremely difficult. And as Gary mentioned, I've mentioned, you know, the dropout. This is where we see the dropout rates with apprentices. So we'd certainly look at supporting with that level 2 while they're working on their maths and English to get it up to that at least minimum grade 4, and then they can look obviously progressing onto a level 3 apprenticeship.
The other thing we're doing also, guys, is within construction engineering, we've been running level 1 competitions, internal competitions, and our judges have been several employers. So last year we had 8 and 9 successful students who were doing the competition, and employers came in and chose them because of their skills and the development of their skills, and they took them on as an apprentice. So we've got some real good success stories about working with employers and moving forward. And obviously we do a full arrangement of obviously skills competitions where they go out to the nationals and regional competitions. So it's all about embedding skills and obviously gaining confidence for our students so they can obviously go into the workplace.
Okay. And just from Sam, where there isn't a T level available, will the level 3 BTEC still be offered? Well, I think we've sort of covered that, but
yeah, there'll still, if there's no overlap, then the BTEC will still stay there. So there will be some BTECs around.
yeah.
So obviously sport and public services, etc.
Okay, fine. And Sam's also asked what actual communications have there been with companies to educate them regarding T levels. I mean, I know you've done quite a lot of work there, but Gary, you want detail.
So from last September, we've had morning breakfast clubs and stuff like that for employers. We've done probably about 10 now. Some of them have been face-to-face, some of them have been remote. We've got an immersive room now at the college, both Stamford and Peterborough College. So obviously people can dial in, and we've got interactive screens. So we've been doing an awful lot around, obviously working with employers. Some of them find it difficult to engage. It's time, etc. But we probably got now roughly on board probably about 60 or 70 employers that have come in new. Also, we've been running industry placements within the college for many, many, many years. So we have a real good database of obviously employer details and working with employers that we've been contacting also.
Okay, thank you. And Alex Borgs asked, important to note for higher education for progression for undergraduate study, many universities require maths and English at GCSE grade 4, and sometimes will ask for the minimum numbers of GCSEs, and depending on course selected, they may require science. For you, Gary.
So obviously the adult nursing one we're doing, they need the science to go on that course for the T level. So maths and English and the science. So we do know we have some students within the college already that haven't got the science who want to progress. So we are doing science if students want to get that GCSE, the grade, with a number of students within the college. But science is fundamentally important to a number of T levels as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there aren't any more questions. Just for sort of all you career leads out there, we are actually also rolling out sort of question time within the schools, but specifically for parents with their children, and those have been tagged on to career evenings. So one in particular, they'll have their careers fair, but they'll also be advertising the fact that Inspire Education Group are doing some very small sessions, 20-minute at a time, probably do about 3 or 4 during the evening. And these are becoming quite popular. So it's a good way of engaging the parents and also, you know, hopefully educating them a bit on T levels, apprenticeships and the future, etc. Okay, has anybody else got any questions?
I have, Rosie. Just thinking ahead about those students that may take a while to get to the point where they're on a level 3 T level. I know we've said that 19 plus at the moment, it looks like there's no funding. Is there any idea, Gary, about if there'll be any kind of learner loans available or anything to help those students? Or if not, have we got any idea of what we're looking at cost-wise for them?
No, in a nutshell. Right. I don't know about the pilot. At the minute, there's no funding. The pilot, they were on about restarting it again and trying to sort something out. But I think there's a whole scoping exercise to talk about funding for 19 plus students. But I think obviously adult learner loans, I'm not too sure, Kate, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay. It's 16 to 18.
So just to be really awkward, so say if they start, because it's a 2-year program, isn't it? So are we sticking by the kind of guidance that if, as long as they're 18 when the program starts, it doesn't matter if they turn 19 during it?
On the course, as long as they're on,
Okay.
So they can turn 19 once they're on the course.
Okay, excellent.
What happened with the pilot scheme was the government wanted to run the pilot scheme, but in reality is there wasn't a lot of FE colleges who wanted to go on the pilot scheme. So the government didn't have any data or reporting on how well it was going to do. So that's the problem. Okay. So they're on about doing the pilot scheme again shortly.
I think realistically we're going to have a significant number of students who find themselves in that position. You know, that took a while to get to that level 3 and are potentially 19.
Yeah, it's a worry.
This is a worry.
But we're trying to, the other one is obviously we're trying to do a lot more part-time courses. So I know heads of faculty within the college are looking at part-time courses for adults in electrical, carpentry, plumbing, and a lot of the trades. Because I know some of the the free PCDL courses have been quite busy basically, and students are wanting more of a qualification rather than just a college certificate. So we are looking at more part-time courses, do you know what I mean? Qualifications for students.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we're getting close to finishing. Has anybody got any last minute questions they want, or are we nearly done? No, I think we are. I just wanted to thank you so much for attending this webinar. I found that myself incredibly helpful. I hope you have. If you do have any more questions, then please do email me. I'm on rosie.mclennan@ieg.ac.uk. And also I'll be sending out all of the slides to you. So thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye.